Ooh, it's Halloween time, boys and girls. The perfect time to play some spooky video games. Ooh. I'm not really a fan of being scared. I'm what you'd call a pansy, but I do enjoy my fair share of spooky games. Less horror-y and more spooky. Games like Medieval or Ghosts and Goblins. Not scary at all, but, you know, spooky. In recent years, I've been getting into some survival horror games, mainly the Resident Evil franchise, as it influenced the survival horror genre greatly. I think it's because of my love of non-linear 2D platformers like Metroid, but the Resident Evil games scratched that itch for me, as well as my need for something spooky around this time. Searching for keys and health items, desperately looking for ammo, cautiously turning every corner in fear of enemies waiting for you. The perfect games to play late at night with the lights off and only the game's audio to keep you company. Are the early Resident Evil games scary?
Stop it! Don't open that door!
Wesker! Whoa! This hall is dangerous. That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
No. But they do give off a creepy atmosphere, perfect for Halloween. The survival horror genre itself is perfect for Halloween. Silent Hill, Clock Tower, Alone in the Dark.
Yahoo!
Luigi's Mansion? Yeah, what about Luigi's Mansion? I mean, what other genre could it be? It has a lot of similarities to other survival horror games, doesn't it? Well, let's back up a second. What makes a survival horror game? I've boiled down 4 aspects of survival horror games that most, if not all, share in some aspect. Just because a survival horror game doesn't have 1 or 2 of these doesn't make it any less of a survival horror game. But more often than not, they will have most of these. I'll use Resident Evil 1 as the major example of a survival horror game. It did influence the genre greatly when it came out. Number 1, spooky. Pretty self-explanatory. Even if not actually scary, to be a horror anything, you gotta at least be going for something spooky. It's pretty dated by today's standards, but Resident Evil 1 was scary when it came out.
It's not just a poisonous snake, it's a monster!
Apparently, but now it isn't. That, in a way, gives the game a unique feel, and honestly, the game does still give off a sort of haunting atmosphere when nobody is talking and you just have the droning and eerie soundtrack to accompany you. Unless it's the director's cut. Yeah. Number 2. Search-based level design. I mentioned earlier that the early Resident Evil games scratched my Metroidvania itch in a different way. That is because the level design in the early Resident Evil games are designed to have the player search every room thoroughly. More often than not, you'll come across a locked door or a puzzle you need some sort of item for, so you'll very often have to leave locked or incomplete rooms behind to search for keys and items you'll need for progression. Since Resident Evil 1 and its subsequent sequels take place in singular areas for the most part, this type of design causes you to remember the building's layout very vividly to the point where you slowly stop needing the map until you've become an expert. This type of level design also goes along with number 3, resource management. This is survival horror, isn't it? So your resources, mainly ammo and HP, are limited. So, along with key items, you'll be searching for ammo and health pickups. I don't care how scary it is or isn't. Running through the halls with no ammo and almost no HP is incredibly nerve-wracking. A feeling not limited to the survival horror genre, but along with the creepy atmosphere they go for, is extremely effective of at least giving you like a panic attack or something. And lastly, number 4. Every enemy is a major obstacle. The one thing that makes survival horror games stand out is that you can't mindlessly chop or shoot every enemy, as in many cases they are not only stronger or faster than you, but fighting them is more of a drain on your resources than they are worth. So it is normally more effective to avoid and run from enemies so you can save your resources. And usually the enemies are built very tankish. Not impossible to kill, but to the point where the ammo wasted may not be worth it. This makes survival horror games way more intense. When you're focused on running rather than fighting, it makes it all the more nerve-wracking when you do get hit, since all you want to do is run away and be safe. So those are, to me, what makes a survival horror game. So how does Luigi Mansion hold to these? Number 1, spooky. Do I really need to explain this one? Luigi's Mansion goes for the spooky vibe 100% and is very effectively atmospheric with the moody lighting and quiet dark rooms littered throughout its entirety. Honestly, I think this game's a little closer to being scary than the original Resident Evil is. Number 2, search-based level design. Another big yes. Most rooms are locked, so you'll need to find keys to open all of them. Now, it's not like they're hard to find. and there's only one room that requires a few different items to complete, but getting a specific key to a room to finally open a locked door that was halting all progression, very survival horror-like. Number 3. Resource management. This is where Luigi's Mansion stumbles in the survival horror department. Obviously, there are no guns in this game. Luigi's Vacuum, the Poltergust 3000, and Flashlight have infinite power, so no real resource management here. The closest to it would be your HP, but finding health pickups uses them automatically, and they're not hard to find. When you can't find any recovery items, however, and you're low on health, it becomes very nerve-wracking running through a crowded hall, much like it would in any survival horror game. So while it might not have resource management, it can still put you in the position of desperation that something like resource management would give you. So maybe a half point with this one? Number 4. Every enemy is a major obstacle. This one is also a difficult answer. Because, well, they are. But you're not avoiding them, but you're hunting them down. Sure, in the halls you want to avoid them, but in rooms, in order to progress, you must capture each ghost within said room. So there are less obstacles and more major objectives. Does this mean it's a no on this one? Sorta? There's still a major focus on the game, so they aren't not an obstacle, but they're just what the gameplay is focused on. So I guess another half point. So hey, 3 out of 4 isn't so bad, right? Unless you don't want to count half points, to which it would be 2 out of 4. So what, does this mean it's not a survival horror game? Sorta. I think it's more of a matter of opinion on this one. Because really, there's more than one way to make a game. Just because one game doesn't follow every single rule that the genre has already established, doesn't make it any less of that type of game. So you could call it a unique survival horror. Or you could call it whatever you want to call it. I guess it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. Luigi's Mansion is a very unique type of game that hasn't really been matched, not even really by its sequels. Unless you want to count Ghostbusters games, but I mean, I don't really know if those count, I haven't played them. But hey, all that matters is that it's the perfect time of year. So go play Luigi's Mansion, you frickin' idiot. Or play whatever survival horror game you want. You can play Resident Evil, Silent Hill, I don't freaking care. Play whatever horror game you want. You play Amnesia? Fine, that's a good game. What, you want to play freaking Bending in the Ink Machine? Fine. You'll play Five Nights at Freddy's? Sure! Go play Five Nights at Freddy's, whatever. I don't care. Happy Halloween!
Hello?